Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's well. We'll start the day with the really sad news about Ricky. I Sunday morning I watched Canelo Crawford, and I watched that about 10:30 in the morning, something like that. And a friend of mine texted me. I don't know if it was Dean who texted me and said, "Oh, have you heard about Ricky? Breaking news that he's been found dead at his home." I don't know what to say about it really, other than, as we all think, it's all tragic. It's been well documented. Ricky struggled mentally. He's in a dark place after the Mayweather win, and then more probably so after the Pacquiao win. Struggled as a lot of elite level sportsmen do when the highs of that are gone and the sense of identity goes with it. And he spoke openly on the documentary, the Hatton documentary on Sky, which is really, really good. He spoke openly about his struggles with cocaine and alcohol. You sort of speculate. I suppose is it in bad taste to speculate? It's probably due to that. You would imagine, unfortunately, having lost a couple of good friends myself to suicide, close, being there with one of them, on the way to the hospital and stuff like that. But it's horrendous. It's horrendous. And you never really prepare for it. All I know is that men I think men face sort of battles that are exclusive to men, I think, in a lot of ways. And they struggle and they don't always talk. If you've got a group of lads around you, a group of brothers around you can speak to and be open with, it makes a massive difference. So I'd say to anyone out there who ever thinks down this pathway, talk, go to someone close. You'd be amazed at how people are that there to listen when you maybe don't think they are, but they are. I was talking about with Dean, he's in our WhatsApp group, myself, Joe Stunner, Bob from Canada's Boxing Channel, and Dean, and we were talking on Sunday about how it's amazing when you think back. We were talking about the old 24/7 series, and the Hatton Mayweather one was at one point anyway the sort of most watched sports documentary series there was. And Mayweather used to do numbers, we know that, and the numbers against Pacquiao and the numbers against Conor McGregor, I mean, they were for different reasons. But the amount of eyes on Mayweather Hatton were mad, and a lot of that was down to, as I said, Mayweather does numbers, but Ricky had something that you can't ever remember, especially a fighter from these parts having that kind of following. Even Naz, Lennox Lewis, they never had the type of support, and that's in the same manner of support that Ricky had. And it was just something that he bought, and above all that, and I remember Billy Graham at the end of the Hatton documentary. Billy Graham said a piece right at the end, and he said a lot of people loved Ricky, or why the reason why a lot of people loved Ricky was because he was a man of the people, and he was an everyman. Do you know what I mean? He was down to earth. And Billy Graham says, but really the reason why people loved Ricky was because he could fight like fuck, and he could, and he lost against two of the very best, and he was in the fight with Mayweather. He was giving a good account of himself. So, he leaves Campbell. I think he had other. Did he have other kids? Did he have a daughter? I don't know. But he certainly leaves Campbell and the rest of his family. So he'll be sorely missed, Ricky. You'll be missed, champ. You're a legend of the game in this country. I think so many lives are touched on hearing this news, but as so many people do. Joe Stunner said this: it doesn't matter how many millions you've got, it doesn't matter how adulated you are, how much fan love you've got. If you've got them demons and you've got them things going on, none of that counts for shit in them circumstances. So, just R.I.P. Ricky, man. A true legend, a legit legend, and one of the greatest fighters ever from this country. So, R.I.P. Ricky, man. Canelo Crawford. In my preview, in my prediction, I said Canelo Crawford would be. This fight reminded me very much of Bivol Beterbiev 2, and it did play out like Bivol Beterbiev 2. It was quite similar in a lot of ways. I talked in the preview, although disclaimer, on Saturday evening, I messaged the group again, the group with Joe and Bob and Dean, and I said, I've changed. Canelo wins. He's too big. He's too strong. Crawford gets hit too much. Turned into the mug punter for a little while. I kind of do it. So I sometimes flip-flop close to fights. Kind of my view gets all skewed. But yeah, my prediction was essentially that Crawford had more tools, and at this point, Canelo, being this very one-dimensional walk forward, I'd say aggressive, but his output is not enough to be considered aggressive. I think he's relied heavily in latter years on his chin, and to me, he's got the best chin in world boxing. To me, at this point, and for his career, I don't know a chin that really rivals it. But I think he become to rely on that because he never had quick feet at all, but he always had really good upper body movement, and he always had really good anticipation of shots. But I think to a degree, he sort of relied on his chin, and he'd been in with the biggest punches, been in with Golovkin, been in with Kovalev, and the fact that he hadn't really ever been properly hurt, I think he just fell into the trap, maybe a bit in the Joe Joyce trap, you know, where you sort of neglect your defence because you know that you can take any shot. I talked about in the build-up that Canelo's output had just dropped recently, and in this it was even worse. The output's really low. He doesn't jab his way in anymore. So he throws these sort of the right hand or the left hook, and they're always from, he's never worked his way in behind a jab. They're thrown from a considerable distance, which means they're telegraphed quite a bit. In periods, he's still got really fast hands, but when you're not working any openings, you're not using any science to get in, you're not coming in behind a jab, you're not really feinting that much, you've got a bit of upper body movement, but there's really no science behind it, and Crawford was finding it quite easy. Saying that Crawford did get hit a few times, but Crawford just had more tools. He was comfortable at the weight. I said it in the preview. I said the weight wouldn't really be that much of an issue. I said Crawford will probably even have to drop weight for this fight. When I'd seen him in camps before fights, seen him going into camp and then seeing him on fight day, I said this before, that he dropped a fuck ton of weight. So it wouldn't be really a case of him coming up. He's coming up 2 divisions, yeah, but he's a big guy anyway. And it didn't look a massive amount of size difference. Canelo was probably a bit thicker on the night, as you'd expect. He's got that sort of body type. But he just didn't have to drop so much weight at this point, and he handled the weight perfectly. That was a concern. That was a caveat, was how will the weight affect him? How will carrying that much more weight in a fight that's probably going to go 12 rounds? He's probably not going to stop Canelo, which he didn't. But he handled it fine. He boxed conservatively at times. I think early on he was fairly circumspect at the fact that Canelo is very strong, is a good puncher, and he was sort of sparing with his offense. But as the fight went on and time grew, it became obvious that he just had... One of the things I thought was what Crawford did well and what Canelo doesn't do well is Crawford's lateral movement. Crawford's lateral movement in both directions is really good. Canelo's isn't really. He likes to come in straight lines. And a lot of times, he won't use lateral movement that much. He won't really step across, he'll turn and follow again. And Crawford really done him in that area. And Crawford took a couple of big digs from Canelo, didn't really show any effects. There was 2 occasions I saw where I thought Crawford had not hurt Canelo, but he felt them, and there was you could see an effect. Not he was hurt, but he certainly felt the effect of Crawford's shots. Crawford never really looked like he was affected really by anything Canelo landed, really, outwardly. And then in the last few rounds, he sort of, I know he threw like a 4 to the body at one point, boom, 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 to the body. Almost like, and Canelo slowed down that much. And Canelo's chin, I think, will be granite forever. But he had to look in the way that shot fighters have, in the way that when they see, where you can watch it, you can see it opening, and they can't let their hands go. It's like they've had to, it's not so much instinctive anymore. And they've now got to think, and when they've thought about it, the opportunities pass, they never get the shots off. And there were lots of opportunities when Canelo never got the shots off. And Canelo just doesn't throw combinations anymore. He will throw 2 or 3 sort of single shots. There might be the right hand, there might be the left hook, and there might come someone after. But they're individual. It's a right hand, and then he might throw a hook, and then he might throw it up. But they're not a combination. They're 3 single shots thrown in close succession. There is a difference. He's not a combination puncher anymore. So it was fairly easy work for Crawford. Yeah, he had to be mindful of his weight. Yes, he had to be mindful of Canelo's strength, and he had to be mindful of Canelo's punch. But I don't know it's different because Crawford's black, so bruises and that don't show up as easily. But he didn't really look marked at the end, did he? Whereas Canelo did. Canelo was reddened up and marked up. Early on, I was thinking to myself, Crawford is being very evasive, and he was on his bike at times, but not in a negative way. He was boxing beautifully. And I kept having to think to myself, yeah, he walks around big, but he's coming up to 168 for the first fight. No, second fight, innit? Majimov was 168, or was that 160? 160, maybe, but he's coming up against, a genuine, and I call Canelo a puncher. Yeah, he hasn't had that many knockouts recently, but he's still a puncher. So I had to, as I was watching, I had to bear this in mind that this is a guy coming up. And I remember when this fight was first announced, people were talking about how this is a joke fight. Canelo's way too big. It's a joke fight. I'm not interested. Loads of people were saying that. And look how it turned out. Crawford wasn't too small. He was strong enough. He retained everything. Let's say this fight was a lot lower at a weight where Crawford was stopping everyone. I still don't think he stops Canelo. No one stops Canelo. But he carried everything up with him. He carried his class, his ability, his boxing brain, and put on a bit of a clinic. Really. I don't think this should detract from Canelo about what he's done and his achievements and the fighter he's been. But Crawford, you just have to take your hat off and look what he's done. I suppose there'll be people who say, well, in terms of elite level fighters, he hasn't fought any, but he's fought everyone he's put in front of him, and he's won the titles that are there to be won. What more can you do? Shouldn't detract from Crawford's ability or Crawford's achievements. Where do they both go next? Canelo, I don't really know. He is going to fight on. And Canelo will still beat fighters out there. He'll still beat the majority of world level fighters. Elite fighters is a different thing. Return, I believe there's a return clause. If there's enough money on the table, and if Crawford gets a bigger cut of the 200 million, I suppose, because Canelo's reported to get 150, Crawford 50. If they offer Crawford equal dibs or even slightly bigger, they'll both have it again, no doubt, because neither of them are going to get that money anywhere else, I wouldn't have thought. I'll watch a return. Am I that bothered about it? Do I think we need it? Not really, but will I watch it? Of course I will. And then where else could Crawford go? Crawford said afterwards that he might go back down to 160, which would kind of seem the logical thing to do. And then that would mean if he could clear up at 160, would that make him a 4-time undisputed champion at 4 different weights? But yeah, just a joy. As Bivol Beterbiev was a joy. I don't think this was quite on that level for me. Crawford is amazing. I heard someone say, I think it was Ade. I think I heard Ade saying, Bivol's not a big light heavy. Just saying, Bivol's not. It's like, Ade, come on, mate. Come on. You're talking, when people thought Canelo would be a step too far, Bivol would be a step too far in size. And, I'm not saying Bivol is head and shoulders above Crawford in ability. But to me, Bivol is technically one of the best fighters in operation today, as Crawford is. But Bivol, I think, is a bit of another level. To me, that's just my opinion. But yeah, got a prediction right anyway, even though I nearly flip-flopped on Saturday night. Anyway, I'll see you all soon. I'm out.